guys, today you're going to be doing some more with Gothic literature, and today you're going to be filling out a chart. And I know that that's not the most exciting assignment ever, but this is the reason I want you to do it. In probably next class or the class after, we're going to start actually analyzing some of the stories, looking into them and seeing what they're all about. And within that, I'm going to reference these elements, like show me where you find this type of atmosphere and setting, or what is the omen and curse in this one, or is the main character an anti-hero or just a hero? Make an argument for that. And if you don't have a foundation of what those things mean, then you are going to struggle to be successful during that part. So while you're doing this, I don't want you to copy and paste. You're going to find all of the answers on one website and you're going to put them into a chart. It's a simple assignment. It's not difficult, but I want you to, especially on the description section, put it in your own words, or just pull out the pieces that you think are important. When you do that, your brain has to process the information and it learns it. It creates neural pathways to where you are actually learning the information and you're taking it in your brain. If you just copy and paste it, your brain doesn't have any opportunity to go through that process of creating those pathways and learning it, okay? And this is not an assignment to waste your time. It is an assignment that has a reason, and I don't want you to waste your time. So please don't copy and paste. I actually don't think it'll let you copy and paste anyway, but even if you could, don't do that. I will give it back to you to redo again if it looks like everything is copy and pasted, okay? Just keep that in mind. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to have this chart right here, and you're going to have a link to this website. And you'll have all of the elements. It'll look exactly like this. My examples will be on there too, so I've done 3 of them for you. The description you get from this top section. So if you go to the website, it's going to look like this. You scroll down to where you start to see the elements, and this first part right here under the elements, that's where you're going to find the description. And in the description, it can include some general examples, some basic examples, like this one right here has like burials, evil, potions, flickering lights, and candles. It can include those. When you go to example, it's going to include more specific. So let's do this one. Mystery and fear. One of the crucial components of a captivating Gothic story evokes feelings of suspense and fear. Anything that is beyond scientific understanding lends its way to mystery. And Gothic writing really does that a lot. So anything we can't explain. You remember in the Ed puzzle, one of the questions was about what is the oldest and biggest fear for humans, according to, I think it was Lovecraft. And he said fear of the unknown. That's what Gothic literature really highlights, is that fear of the unknown, those things that we can't explain. So it talks about many Gothic works contain scenes and events, such objects like burials. We don't have a distinct answer as to what happens after we die. Lots of people have different viewpoints and beliefs on it, but there's no definitive answer. Flickering candles, think about that same way as like flickering lights, like things like just all of a sudden, the lights going on and off. There's no scientific explanation for why that would be happening, what's making that happen. Evil potions, other frightful concepts that we can't explain how this dark magic or whatever it is working. So I read this, we see, and that gives a little bit, the story centers around an orphan girl subject to cruelties, fearful events, hauntings. So hauntings, we can't explain what really is happening. So I took that and I took the pieces I thought were the most important. I summarized the description of it. Anything that is beyond scientific understanding, that's the basis of the mystery and fear. And then I gave the little examples that I give. Burials, evil potions, flickering lights, and candles. Basic. I didn't go into huge detail or anything. I just chose the basic idea of what this means for Gothic literature. Remember, keep it in with Gothic literature. So I don't want just what atmosphere and setting is, for example, when you get down to that one. I don't just want the scene it's in. Like, what does it mean for Gothic literature? What does this article say? It means for Gothic literature in particular. Then for your example, you're going to find the example, the specific example that I want is, scroll down, and you come to this. It is an infographic with specific examples for each element, and that is the one that I want in the example section. Okay, so go down to this black and white and red infographic, find the one that you're doing. Some people are doing all the description and then all the examples, and that's fine, so you don't have to go back and forth, however you want to do it. So this talks about Frankenstein. It says Shelley includes graveyards, gloomy castles, and a frightening monster to emphasize the fear. Who shall conceive the horrors of my secret toil as I dabbed among the unhallowed damps of the grave or tortured the living animal to animate the lifeless clay? So mystery and fear in this one is with Frankenstein. So I just took what it said. Frankenstein, graveyards, gloomy castles, frightening monster. That's all I'm doing is taking the basics from the description, going down to this infographic, finding the specific example it gives, and putting that in the box right here. Okay, so I did romance for you guys as well. So we go to romance, and we just do the same thing. It's widely believed Gothic literature stemmed from Romantic literature. The two genres share overlapping characteristics. Remember, you saw that in the Ed Puzzle too, that Gothic kind of stemmed off from it. Many Gothic novels are plagued by a passionate romance that often leads to sorrow and tragedy. So Gothic romance does not have a happily ever after. Everybody doesn't end up in love and together and happy ever after. It ends up badly for them. It ends in sorrow and tragedy and not a happy ending. So it's kind of a twist on the earlier romantic where things ended up great. In Gothic literature, you're pretty much doomed. So I put right here, romance. Gothic stems from Romantic lit, which is literature. Passionate romances that end in sorrow. So I just basically took what this said, I summarized it in my own words. It was like, okay, it stems from Romantic literature, but then these are the passionate romances, yes, but they end badly. They end in sorrow. And I want you to use your own words in these because that's what's going to make sense to you if you look back at these as your notes. So if this has like fancy language in it, put it in your own words when you put it in on your chart. Then we go down to the example, and they use the example of Wuthering Heights. Where did it go? Sorry. There it is. Notable work, Wuthering Heights. Bronte's characters, Catherine and Heathcliff, romance grows before being sabotaged by their family. So in that book, they have this epic romance. They're from two different worlds, whatever, but I hate that book. I know I'm supposed to like it as an English person, but I don't like it at all. And then it's sabotaged. Their romance is sabotaged by their families, and they do not get to live happily ever after. So that's what I put right there. Wuthering Heights, romance blooms before it is sabotaged by their families. Anti-hero is the other one that I did for you. And sorry, I keep scrolling. That's probably annoying while you're watching this, huh? Anti-hero, more often than not, the protagonist takes the form of the anti-hero, a flawed protagonist with monstrous elements. So if you think about traditional heroes, like you think about fairy tale heroes, they are absolutely pure and good, right? We don't see any bad sides to them. They just go in, they save the day, they rescue the girl, they are just pureness and goodness. In Gothic literature, they aren't. We see their bad side. We see that they have monstrous elements to them as well. Even if they are the main character that's kind of the good guy, they're not 100% a good guy. They're an anti-hero. Somebody mentioned, and we see their doom is foreshadowed. We see, remember, things don't end up happily ever after for anybody in these stories. Frankenstein, nobody ends up well in that. Not Dr. Frankenstein, not the monster, nobody ends up good in that. Dracula, nobody ends up good in that. So in these stories, we can see everyone's doom, including the hero, who is the anti-hero, who we kind of see why they're going to end up in doom, because they're driven by sorrow and tragedy, and they're easily influenced with too much passion, like Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, to create this monster who just was over the top with passion to do this thing that he probably shouldn't have done. So we see that their end is coming, and we see their bad characteristics. I think of superheroes. An old superhero, traditional superhero, they're more just straight hero, and I think more in modern telling of superhero stories, you get more of an anti-hero with some of them. We see their flaws, we see their bad side. Someone mentioned Deadpool as an anti-hero, and he's definitely an anti-hero. He's a comedic, likable anti-hero, but we definitely see his bad side and his flaws, right? He's not the perfect hero at all. So the example that this one gives for anti-hero, we go back down to here to find our, so right here I put flawed good guy. I could have put flawed protagonist, which is what it says, but if I'm going to go back to my notes and I want to know and I don't remember what protagonist means, then I'm going to say flawed good guy has monstrous elements, often doomed, driven by passion and sorrow. I just took those main ideas from that description and I put them in there in my own words. Picture of Dorian Gray is the example for the anti-hero they give. That story is that Wilde creates a radiantly handsome gentleman who quickly transcends into anti-hero through his immoral pursuits. So we meet this guy in that book. He's this popular, good-looking guy. We see him just kind of out, just kind of partying and stuff. And then we see him start to do things that we're like, oh, that's not good. That's not nice. Like, we see him do bad things. Then we learned that there's a portrait hanging in a secret room in his house, and it's a picture of him. And every time he does something bad or immoral, the face in the portrait grows older and older. And at this point in the story, when we are seeing him, he has been young and alive for such a long time and doing such bad things that the portrait is just decaying and rotting and like a monstrous face. And that's really who he is on the inside at this point, right? Because of all of the things that he has done. He really is this decaying monster. But on the outside, he still looks like this beautiful person. So he's the anti-hero in that. So in this, I put picture of Dorian Gray, becomes a monster by doing bad things. So I didn't put radiantly handsome, transcends immoral pursuits, because that might not make sense to me when I go back to my notes. So I put becomes a monster, that's really what he becomes, by doing bad things. Immoral pursuits are bad things. Okay? So that is what you are doing today. You need to finish the rest of the chart. And please ask me if you have any questions. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.